Is Matt Shaw actually in danger of missing opening day in Tokyo? And does Brad Keller have a legitimate shot at the 5th starter spot? Hey, welcome into the Setup Man. It's me, Kyle Stanley, and this was a really cool thing that I did for the first time. It was an X Space, Twitter, formerly known as. Had a bunch of people interact, had a bunch of people on, and I decided to take this little excerpt from the end of our space because of a few reasons. Number one is that the idea of Brad Keller is becoming a little bit more intriguing. He's a big-time Tyler Zombro guy. Tyler Zombro has been huge on Brad Keller ever since they got him to come over to the Cubs on a non-roster invitee opportunity with the spring training squad. And it's possible that, as you start to see him stretch out, that he might actually have a legit shot as a starter, not just getting on this roster, but actually as a starter. So we're going to talk about that for a second. We're also going to talk about Matt Shaw's health, as that is always an important update. And the reason that these things were brought up was because actually our good friend and ally of the Setup Man, Matt Cozy from the Locked On Cubs podcast, make sure you go check that out on YouTube or any of your podcast platforms. He was the one that brought these things up, and I was very happy to see him in the room, very happy to engage with him. And also, you'll hear from my co-host, Ty Lewin, who's also part of the Setup Man crew. You've seen him probably moderate some of our rooms and our lives. He had actually a really legitimate idea about the whole Matt Shaw thing and service time. So I want to bring this up. I want you guys to hear it. And if you want to hear the entire thing, I've got it linked down below on the podcast. And of course, join us anytime on X whenever we do these live spaces, which we'll be doing more of. And just follow me at SetupManKyle. Let's get to it.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Hopefully I'm coming through okay. Appreciate you guys doing this. It's been really good. I've enjoyed it. Yeah, I got two things that are on my mind after today's spring training action. I'm wondering if Brad Keller is a candidate for the 5th starter job. I wonder if we'll hear about that the next couple of days. I have a theory that he is being stretched out. I think the 97, with the cutter and the slider would play well in a 1 or 2 inning role. But I think, as a career starter that he is, aside from some bullpen time last year, I do wonder with that job open if he's actually trying out for that. And the other thing is, if Matt Shaw doesn't play next week, I'll start to get concerned. I didn't think Horner was going to play in Japan. I also didn't think he would do the domestic opening day, but it sounds like he might now, which I think is actually really encouraging. But I didn't have Matt Shaw on my card to miss, the Tokyo series. And, who, if they have to fill second and third, even I get it, it's 2 games of 162. But you wonder how they're going to figure that out, whether it's Birdie, Workman, Lopez, shoot, does Triantos make the Tokyo roster? So I'm kind of looking at Shaw maybe like next Tuesday or Wednesday. If he's not in a game at that point, I think he would be under the same microscope as Horner, and I don't know if he's going to play in Japan.
I'll tell you 2 things from conversations that I had at spring training. Number one, Tyler Zombro and I talked, and he's like, basically, like, I've got a lot of good relationships with a lot of these guys, and so if we have to let any of them go, I sure hope that our relationship would allow us to be able to sign them to a minor league deal or something like that. And I think like a Brad Keller kind of falls into that. And I think the conversation probably is currently in that realm of what you're talking about, but also like, hey, we're not looking at you as or one guy as a 5th starter. I think we're looking at 4 guys, 5 guys taking up about 60 starts in that number 4 and number 5 and number 6 really starting pitcher role. And so if Keller doesn't make the 26-man roster and say, I don't know, maybe it's Colin Ray or if it's Ben Brown as the number 5 starter, I think the conversation to Brad Keller is like, hey, you're not making the team right now, but in 2 weeks, you're probably getting a call from us as long as you sign a minor league contract, and you're probably going to get the call up, and then we're going to option Ben Brown down for, 2 weeks just to give him a little bit more rest. So I think, yes, I think him, Wicks, Brown, Ray, Assad are all being considered for number 5/6 starters. But I think we're going to see some version of all of them in the first few months. That's my hunch right now, and I could be wrong, but that's the way I kind of view it. And then Matt Shaw, I talked to him the very last day when I left, and he's just so ready to get back on the field. I think if it was in his hands right now, I think he would already be playing in games. But I think they're taking that very, very slowly. But Ty, I mean, whether he's healthy or not, you had a really good point earlier.
Yeah, Matt. So one of the things that I was thinking about, just because the Cubs aren't necessarily too unfamiliar to something like this, is there the world that scares me, because I think Jed's got the job moving forward. I think him and Counselor are working well together, him and Carter, and then with the Ricketts, he's done a great job of being able to handle all this. So now looking at it from Shaw's perspective, is it too out of the question that they look at years of service and they say, hey, like, we don't necessarily need to give this guy, I think it's 130 or 140 ABs, to take away that first year of service. I mean, again, this is a stretch. I would say this is like very, very deep into the cards. We don't necessarily have to put this on the radar right now. But an oblique issue like this, you're talking about, things like, hey, we don't have to stress him out too early. We can take time with them. Hey, he doesn't do well in the first month, we send him down to AAA. It's something to just keep an eye out for. Obviously, no one wishes an injury upon a player, but that is something. And look, like with Gage Workman and Justin Turner, as you have platoon options with that lefty and righty bat that can play third and first in solid positions. And of course, Michael Bush has looked good thus far. So you're looking at a situation like that. You're like, okay, like, we don't need to rush anything here just yet. And unfortunately, like, Cubs fans aren't going to look at that and say, man, that's the right way to do things. No, everybody's going to want to see Matt Shaw up day one. But unfortunately, like, these are things that we have to watch out for with this organization. I think that's something I'm going to keep my eye on.
I think that is a stretch, just because, almost from a public relations standpoint, I don't know if that's weird to say, but
It's a good point.
I mean, after the Paredes trade, for such a big name in Tucker, I inserted Shaw's name in the lineup immediately, and I really think they did too. And they're making this investment in him at third base. I do think there will be, there could be a PCA like approach to it from last year. I'm excited to see him. I would really hope there's no factors like that behind the scenes, um, because seeing Birdie, Lopez, or Workman respectively for an extended time, I don't know. I don't know if that is the best route to go. Yeah. There was guys on the board this winter. They didn't go down that route. We know Turner, could finish a game at third, but for no extended stretch by any means. So I think he'll be over there at all. So yeah, I think that piece of intel, not little, I think it's a big piece of intel from Kyle, just in his convo with Shaw, is encouraging, because 3 weeks from tomorrow, I will be waking up at 5 a.m. Central.
Oh, don't act like that's a big deal. 3 a.m. Pacific over here.
And that is, guys, that's not even that far from now.
No,
like, we could do it.
It's a cup of coffee, cup of coffees, boys.
Ty's gonna do a Starbucks run for us.
Oh yeah, I'll be sending them. DoorDash over.
All right, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Appreciate
I am
you, brother.
15 minutes late to dinner with my wonderful
Sorry about that.
Very patient. Yeah.
I'm gonna blame it on Matt Cozy. That's what I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna say, listen,
please do.
This Italian guy just made us stay on way too long.
That's right.